Hi guys, welcome to now what is called the Conscious Kingdom with Alex Roseman.
And Julia Fetisova. Hi guys.
Hi. We've decided to really level up and decided to go, well, from the Conscious Hub, we needed something that really resonated to our energy. And we leveled up so quickly that we've already changed the name to the Conscious Kingdom because we're inviting you, our people, to really join us on this journey of such exciting times. And of course, there are a lot of things out there in the world happening that you probably want some certainty and some reassurance. And we'd like to think that we can bring that to you. So in this particular video, we're going to give you bite size of how to do. And this particular one is how to have self-love. And what does it mean? So we're going to take you on a little journey. So it's going to really give you something practical and that you can implement in your life right now.
So first and foremost, how do we identify that we have issues with self-love? Is that when we look around in our life and we notice that areas of our lives reflect to us any resistance or any fears that might be happening. This is a very clear reflection and an indication that we might be shortchanging ourselves in some ways because we are not necessarily acknowledging our own value and how much we truly deserve. And that is usually very seen in such thinking like thinking of lack, or thinking of being a victim, or in any way having to be less than who you truly are, who others think that you are. It is that feeling in the inside that you're just not good enough. But just identifying that feeling, just knowing and acknowledging to yourself is the first step to actually starting the healing process.
So what this is going to bring you is to a level of awareness that you can see within yourself what it feels like to love yourself, to have that self-love. Because when you get to that place, you're going to start to see your life will transform. It's not about what's going on outside of yourself. Once you do the work that we're about to show you, inside yourself, what's going on here will be an outer reflection out there. So it's nothing about what you need to change here. This is the work that's going to do something in here. And we're really looking forward for you to see the results and how you're going to show up in such different ways. And people are going to notice something very different. And we're going to take you through about 5 steps to get there in the self-love. So get a pen and paper, get writing. And of course, you must take action on these steps in order to see this transformation. To do this work is going to take some deep self-reflection. It's not easy, but it is essential if you really want to overcome these barriers. And the first one, which I've done many a times, is to really look within yourself to find out what are the reasons that you feel like you don't love yourself. Writing these things down on a piece of paper right now, at least for the question, and you can obviously do this work later, is to really identify what it is. Why do I not love myself? What is this reason I have going on? And if you can write these reasons down, you can start to identify the thoughts that have been going on in your head, have them out, and you can observe them and just start looking at them and going, is this really enough for me to not love myself? For what I've written, is that really enough for me to not allow myself to love myself? And if you can look at that objectively from a third person point of view, you can start to really make a distance between the person you thought you were and the new person that you're looking to become.
So next, you will have to go a little bit deeper and you have to ask yourself why. What has happened in my life that gives me enough hardcore evidence to consider that you don't love yourself? What has happened in the past? What events? What critical parent thinking or conversations that you might have had or are still having in your head? What specific moments in your life have given you that idea that you're not worthy of love? Because all of us, deep inside, are worthy of love. And it's just at some point in our life, we rob ourselves of that certainty and that security just because we're giving a certain experience a meaning. So, what has happened in your past that has changed the way you perceive love towards yourself? What is showing up now in your life? Very often as what I call karmic cycles, karmic circles. where it is a very similar theme that just keeps on reoccurring and reoccurring and reoccurring until you finally realize something. And it will always come back to receiving. Any karmic cycle gets a breakthrough when we finally receive a new level of understanding and we receive a new level of love. What these things that happen now in your present are, how those things will be affecting your future, how these kind of blockages in the years to come can actually change the way that you think about yourself.
This step is really important. I do this with a lot of clients where I look at what they think is a negative and I see how it serves them. And this is a great case and example, right? You're looking at ways of how you can give yourself a reason not to love yourself. Well, how does it serve you? Not loving yourself. How do these reasons serve you? Because you wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't serving you in some way. So there is a sort of backhanded positive intent behind it. So if you can see what that is and go, I didn't love myself for this because it kept me safe from that. Or I didn't love myself from that, so it kept me away from having a relationship where I could get hurt. You see, there is something there that's hidden underneath the surface. And if you start to look, you'll start to see what it is. And then you can have a different strategy where you can meet that need without sabotaging love in your life. Because at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. Is when you have that self-love and you start to identify with it, then you can start to look at other ways that you can create the love in your life rather than sabotaging it, whichever turn you go. So let's look at it again. Where do you see it serving you? Write these down. Literally, if you see something there, go, right, how do I look at it in a way to know how it serves me? By me not deserving the love because of this, what is the other side of that? And you can start to see the other side, because there's always another side. You start to shift your perception. You see the other side. You can then be grateful for the situation. And we'll go into that in the next step.
So, as Alex rightly said, everything that happens in our life has a positive intent behind it, even if we don't see it from the first go. There is a certain hidden gift or a certain serving that is happening behind the scenes that is keeping us in that habit. So, now if we were to identify with that feeling of not being enough, of not being loved because I'm this, this, and this, because that and that has happened. Now, imagine that feeling is with you and you can feel it and you can know it. And that's something that is very evident when we change our state, because our whole physique changes, the way that we speak changes, the way that our body moves, even our breathing changes. Now, imagine that stays with you. It is with you today. It is still with you in 1 year's time. That heaviness, that emptiness at the same time of not being enough, of not being loved. Now, as the time goes by, it now becomes 5 years of living with that feeling of not being loved. You're starting to lose friendships. You're starting to lose relationships, because you can never really have a relationship with somebody unless you love yourself. You're not able to give anything of you because you just don't have enough to give. Time goes by, and then it's 10 years down the line, and you're somewhat older, somewhat more fragile, but yet people around you are depleting. There's less and less of that support. There's less and less of that confidence within you. 20 years pass. Now that is now your identity. That feeling is now so deeply so deep of you in your core that you can't identify yourself from that feeling. So it is really that process, a very visual explanation of what it would be like to carry that with you for the rest of your life. And rest assured, it gets heavier and more burdensome.
Of course, we don't want to leave you with this burden. We want you to literally transform it. And this is what we're going to do. And this is how we're going to finish it off. And I've recently had a client do it. And for them, it was a liberating process. And I've done it myself many a times. And it's been staying up late, crying as I'm writing my perception of a past where I held myself as a victim to it. So what we want to do is transform your past, because what this can do will really transform your future, because we're always, unless we deal with this, taking our past into the future. And as Julia said, that burden we'll be carrying with us until we're old and grey. So in order to do and to get rid of this burden, I'm sure you're waiting to hear this, is to write down the moments from your past where you felt that you were unloved for whatever reason, because maybe you did something to someone or someone did something to you, and from your perception of that past, you saw yourself as a victim to it, or you saw yourself as someone who had harmed someone else, and you look at the other side of it. We want to look at a point where you can be grateful for the situation by looking at what was happening with the challenge, if you were challenged or they were challenged, and looking at where the support comes in, because you can't have one without the other. So looking at it, seeing that situation, look at how it served them and how it served you. I'm sure you've noticed how the worst day of your life turned out to be the best day of your life. And what we want to do is look at those moments where you may feel the guilt, resentment, or anything that's kept you from self-love. So when you do this, write it down, see the other side of it, make peace with it. And when you've written as much as you can down, with tears on the paper, whatever it takes, burn it. Burn that letter, get rid of it. It's no longer associated with you. The past is an hallucination. It no longer exists, right? And the future is now free for you to create whatever you'd like to, because you're now not taking your past into your future. Keeping yourself from a place of gratitude will affect your business, your relationships, your life. Once you start to allow love in, your external world is going to shift drastically. And all you have to do is do the work within yourself. You don't have to go up to people or tell them this or tell them that. For now, do the work with yourself. No one needs to see what you've written. Give yourself the space. Book it in your diary. Schedule it if you need to, because this work is essential for your future, to not carry the burden, as Julia said, with you for the rest of your life.
First and foremost, self-love is self-forgiveness. Those moments that we have found ourselves in where we've given up on ourselves. Because in the end of the day, we don't owe it to nobody else but ourselves. And it's only us who can carry ourselves through these moments. So at some point in time, us being humans, and that being part of the human journey, when that certain fraction happens of a certain distortion in a self-belief, we betray ourselves. We betray our true nature. And it's almost like it starts to grow a second skin. That second skin that is protecting you from ever being vulnerable enough to give anybody or anything enough power to ever hurt you again in that way. Now, that sounds like a really cool thing to do because that protects you, right? But at the same time, it keeps you and it stops you from experiencing what this life has to offer. What relationships are out there to experience, what relationship it is to experience with yourself. So first and foremost, with a hand on your heart, the first step, the last step, the most important step is a step to forgive yourself. At any point in any moment in time when you went there for yourself, you stand up for yourself and you give yourself a big hug, because nobody is doing anything wrong given their model of the world. And that's something to keep in mind when you're practicing self-love. So it's really about changing the perception from that attitude of lack, of not being enough, not having enough, not being lovable, to the mindset of appreciation, of abundance, of having enough. You have everything you need in order to succeed in this life. You have everything you need for happiness. You have everything you need in order to achieve any results you put in front of you. Everything that you ever wanted is always at your fingertips. Only if you declare that you're worthy of receiving the love that the universe has to offer.
The steps that we've given you have been tried and tested. I've taken many clients through this process, and including myself. And from where I was before, not even knowing what self-love actually was, of how to love, even knowing what the capacity to love was, um, my capacity has increased so much to be able to really create sort of the environment to have things flourish in a way that never flourished before. So I can't wait to see how you guys, from taking these steps, start to flourish in your own lives. And we would love to hear what comes from it with you. So if you want to write a comment, share with us your experiences, just to let us know what came up for you. We need to hear it. We want to hear it so we can keep giving you what it is that you need to take you where you want to go. So really, thank you again for watching us, The Conscious Kingdom.
Yes, and keep in mind and be very aware which relationships around you nurture that aspect of self love and reflect that aspect of self love, and which relationships around you then rather feed that feeling of lack. Because that's when you actually take your life into your hands and you take control of your life. So, with that in mind, we're sending you our heartfelt, warmest hugs, and we thank you again for being with us today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.